as James said, VP of Sales at Peak. And today, what I want to talk about is building the foundations of a hypergrowth sales machine and hopefully share some practical tips you can take away with you. For those of you that haven't heard of Peak, James gave a brief intro there, but for context, we're a decision intelligence company and we help CPG companies, retailers, and manufacturers like Nike, PepsiCo, and Marshalls deploy AI throughout their end to end value chain with the goal of supercharging decision making across sales, marketing, merchandising, supply chain, and logistics, driving massive uplifts in profit and growth. And for further context, at Peak, we have a global enterprise sales team of 50-ish strong across EMEA, US, and India. We have sales cycles between 3 to 6 months and ACVs now in the mid to high hundreds of thousands. And we sell to a variety of C-suite personas across our key verticals. And we've had around 100% year-on-year growth for several years running now, as James just alluded to, and we had triple growth for the 2 years preceding that. And we've recently been backed by SoftBank in our Series C. So that's a little bit of context, which will hopefully help colour what I'm about to talk about in terms of building a sales machine that enables consistent hyper growth. To do that, I'm going to take a step back to a formative experience I had at the start of my career, which has heavily shaped the way I personally think about sales and business more generally. So I'm going to throw back to when I was 20 years old, approaching my final year of university and starting to think about what I wanted to do with my life beyond going out 4 or 5 nights a week with my friends. And for a long time, I'd wanted to be in the police. I grew up in a relatively rough area just outside of Liverpool in the UK. And as such, I was around violence and crime from a young age. And I wanted to make an impact on that. I wanted a real challenge. And so the police really struck a chord with me. And whilst in university, Greater Manchester Police ran a recruitment drive to take 50 out of 5,000 student applicants onto a fast track program for leadership positions within the GMP force. I got through the paper sift process, initial round of interviews, and then I was invited to an all-day assessment centre where we were tasked with written tests, maths tests, group exercises, competency-based interviews with the chief constable, and multiple role plays, which we all love, right? And I still remember the role plays as some of the most intense I've ever done in my career. So you'd basically be given a sheet of paper before you walk into a room, and the paper would say something like, you're the first responder to the scene of a race hate crime in a supermarket. You then open the door in front of you, and immediately you're getting screamed at by an actor playing a distraught citizen, with an invigilator sat calmly in the corner, observing your every move and your every word to measure your interactions with this individual. So it was super intense. And the actor was basically trained to have 10 gateways in their script. And if you managed to communicate and handle objections in a meaningful way, you'd unlock each gateway. Anyway, I did all right, and I was accepted onto the program. And I can still remember tearfully phoning my mum outside the recruitment centre to tell her I'd achieved a dream. It was quite overwhelming. And a few days later, I got my offer letter in the post. A week following that, myself and the other 49 successful recruits received another letter saying the program was being paused for a year, at which point the force would be in touch again. And that's because this was the year 2008, and I was frankly oblivious and very naive to the ongoing recession around us. It was a quid for a pint. It was 60p for the Magic Bus. The iPhone didn't exist yet, and we were all in our own blissfully ignorant student bubble. So fast forward 365 days later, after I received that letter, another letter arrived, and GMP terminated all 50 outstanding offers. So if you think about a young lad, 20 years old, achieved a dream, I was absolutely gutted and had to do a lot of soul searching at the time. But fortunately, that soul searching basically led me to some of the fundamental ways I now think about business today. So I very quickly had to reflect on the building blocks or capabilities I'd created and honed over my life to date that enabled me to succeed in that GMP process. And I then needed to map those capabilities to other career paths to figure out where was a strong fit and where my gaps were. So I was a decent communicator, empathetic, active listener, fiercely competitive, relatively calm in stressful situations, and so on. So I did that exercise, and slight spoiler alert, given this talk today, it led me to sales. Now, this way of thinking about building blocks and capabilities has followed me throughout my career, and I've been really intentional about codifying what I've wanted to develop in myself and in my people and my teams, and then hiring and training based on those capabilities to create high performing teams that can achieve hyper growth. So what does that have to do with building a sales machine? Well, the sales machine, in my mind, and the way we've thought about it at Peak, is effectively the sum of all of your capabilities stitched together within your sales org. And what I mean by that is your people capabilities as the foundation, the dark blue layer, and then the process, systems, and data capabilities built on top of that foundational layer, with culture and strategy infusing everything else throughout. And as we successfully stitch these sets of capabilities together, starting with that key foundation, we drive greater uplifts in the metrics and goals we all want to achieve. So ARR, NRR, ACV, win rate, etc. However, if we get the foundations wrong, we ultimately risk scaling something really, really quickly in a hyper-growth environment that is eventually going to become completely ineffective, and the machine effectively starts to crumble from the bottom at that foundational layer. So I can't talk fast enough to cover all of the capabilities on the screen in 7 minutes. So what I'll do is focus on the foundational layer for the next couple of minutes. So at Peak, for a hyper-growth enterprise sales org, there's a huge imperative to double ARR year on year and to get salespeople to full productivity and fully ramped as quickly as possible. So there's a number of key people focused capabilities, roughly 12 or 13, we look for and continue to develop via enablement and coaching that have a direct line to the metrics that I mentioned earlier that we're looking to impact. So I'll share 5 of the key capabilities that we deeply care about of those 12 or 13. So at the front end of the sales cycle, during first calls and first meetings, we're looking for exceptional storytellers, people who can effectively capture a prospect's imagination when discussing the future of business and AI, and bring to life how other companies are creating value on Peak. And given we've created the decision intelligence category quite intentionally, this capability is even more critical. So we know when we get this right, we're typically 70% more memorable. If we move further along the sales cycle to discovery, we deploy win teams at Peak. So our salespeople need to be exceptional leaders in directing cross-functional teams of pre-sales. They're not just lone wolves. So they've got to work with pre-sales, they've got to work with data scientists, customer success, marketing, and partners at pace and delivering real clarity to all of those different people in order to win business. And if we get this capability right, we've seen we can increase win rates by 2 to 3 times. As we move through discovery and into business case and proposal building, rapidly creating clarity externally with customers is a critical capability for us too. So given what we sell can be relatively nascent artificial intelligence in the minds of many of our buyers, the ability to guide a prospect as a trusted advisor via mutual action plans, locking in clear next steps, locking in meetings at the end of the meeting that you're in is absolutely critical for us. And this can lead to as much as 4x win rate and a massive increase in pipeline velocity. And then across the end-to-end customer journey, we want high levels of attention to detail and customer obsession in every single interaction, which is often cited in win interviews as a major reason for major customers going with Peak. So these exceptional customer experiences, they resonate deeply with buyers versus just having a shit hot amazing product. And developing this capability intentionally is really hard, but it's worth it as it leads to massive uplifts in average order value. And finally, one for any Loonshots fans in the room. If you haven't read this book, you definitely should. At Peak, and I'm sure many of you feel this way, it often feels like we're building a rocket ship whilst we're in flight because of the hypergrowth nature of what we're trying to achieve. So as such, one of the key capabilities we choose to be really intentional about is who are our strategists, who displays innovative strategic tendencies, who are our translators, who are the people that are amazing at taking great ideas and then figuring out how you actually operationalize them. And then who are the executors, who are the people on the ground that just deliver amazingly every single time with rigor. And by being intentional about this capability in sales in particular, it allows us to test new service innovations really quickly without breaking the sales process and confusing people. And it allows us to capitalize quickly on new differentiated products, services, whether that's partner process, innovations that have a massive impact on productivity per rep. So they're just the snapshot of the first layer of our sales machine, which drives 100% year-on-year growth for us today. My advice would be to anyone who's going on this journey of trying to build a hyper-growth sales machine. Step one, think about what unique capabilities you need in your sales org based on your unique product, your unique sales cycles, your unique average order values, and think about what you need to be successful in your sales org. Step two, build the people capability framework. And then step three, augment other capabilities like your hiring process, your sales boot camp, your ongoing enablement program, your coaching scorecards to laser focus on the things you want to develop in your people that will ultimately drive the biggest uplifts for your business. If you're interested in discussing any of that further, if you want to see our capability framework, if you want to show and share and see what you've been up to, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, and obviously we can have a chat in the networking afterwards as well. So have a great day, everyone. Back to Owen. Thank you very much.